Button means we're live, a casual take with your boy Stephen Pepper, here to give a take off my chest. So, contrary to popular belief, I'm actually having fun watching all these bowl games. I guess because I don't necessarily agree with having a 12-team playoff. I just can't have fun still watching the games. I'm having fun. Who else has had fun? The SEC. When Indiana was the first team knocked out of the college football playoff, you got guys like Kurt Herbstreit on the broadcast and all these media heads puffing their chest saying the SEC would have done better because it just means more down there. And until it didn't, until Georgia last night lost to Notre Dame in a neutral site by more points than Indiana did to Notre Dame in South Bend. So the SEC, just an all-time dud bowl season this has been. They have gone 8-6 so far in bowls. Now you might be saying 8-6, that's just not that bad. But what's concerning to me is the record from their Big Six. The six best teams in the SEC this year that were either in the college football playoff or people cried should have been in the college football playoff because of their strength of schedule just made them better teams. Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee. They're 3-4. 3-4. That's not good. And Texas is carrying two of those wins, and they were in the freaking Big 12 last year. And if it wasn't for like a targeting call or a 4th and 13 conversion in overtime, Texas will be out of this thing before the semifinal. So it's something to think about. So like I have to ask, is it fair to say that the SEC's 20-plus year long run, is that over, or can we just chalk this up as a down year? Because I don't know, I'm watching these bowl games, and for the conference that means more, sure is taking more L's. But for the longest time, the SEC did mean more. I've been on this earth for a little over 21 years now, and that's exactly how long the SEC's been running this sport. Starting when LSU won the title in 2003. The SEC has won 14 of the last 21 national titles, including 6 of the 10 college football playoffs. Now, you could say that Alabama carrying most of that load, especially in the back end, but teams like LSU, Georgia, Florida, Auburn won titles in that era as well. But here's the big note. In the last 21 years, the SEC has never gone 2 straight years without appearing in the national title. But I think it's going to happen this year because last year, obviously, they weren't in it, and I think Ohio State's going to handle Texas, kicking out the final SEC team in the playoff. So is it really fair to say that their run is over, or is this just a down year? And I have a theory. I think now that we're fully in the era of the NIL and transfer portal, the playing field is leveling. What I mean by that is the SEC's dominance is rooted in their geographical location, the South. And if you know anything about high school football, the South produces the best athletes. So if you were an elite high school football player, naturally, for the longest time, unless there was some under the table money, you went to an SEC school. But now what we're seeing is in the transfer portal and the NIL, these SEC schools can't stockpile on these 5-star athletes because kids want to get paid and they want to play. So the window is widening for these northern schools like Ohio State, like Notre Dame, to come on down and start plucking talent, which is now weakened the SEC. Now, I still think the SEC is the best conference going forward because of their geographical location. But what have we been seeing during the bowl season so far? We're seeing these Big Ten schools, including Notre Dame, just having a moment where they're beating up on these SEC schools. USC beat A&M. Obviously, Ohio State beat Tennessee and Notre Dame beat Georgia. But freaking Illinois beat this red-hot South Carolina team that some people thought should have been in the playoff. Because finally, these northern schools are able to match the speed and physicality of the SEC. And I think that's because of the NIL and the transfer portal. And for the longest time, like in the peak of the SEC, Bama dynasty, this couldn't happen. Like the SEC had just had miles more NFL swole, fast bodies that they would blow out Illinois in the first quarter. And that's why only one team, not in the SEC, was able to eat multiple championships in that run, and that was Clemson. But they were a Southern school. Northern schools couldn't really win championships. But now what are we seeing? Look at Ohio State. They're high-key impact players. This is the best team in the nation, a team that I'm a Buckeye guy for the longest time has had this kind of stigma that they can't really get over the SEC hump. Jeremiah Smith, their best player, born and raised in Florida. Seth McLaughlin, their center, before he went down. Bama transfer. Quinshon Judkins, their starting running back. Ole Miss transfer. Caleb Downs. arguably the best defensive player in the nation. Bama transfer. Will Howard, their starting quarterback, transfer. Notre Dame too. Riley Leonard, quarterback, transfer. So what we're seeing now in the NIL and the transfer portal is these northern schools that had a geographical disadvantage now have a wider recruiting pool to pluck talent and patch holes that in the past they would have. And that's why the SEC just had this big advantage. Now, I still think the SEC going forward is going to be the best conference still because of all the history and just that talent era in the South. They're still going to forever own. But now these teams like Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, Michigan can go out and try to pluck these guys for X amount of dollars or go out to this other side of the country that usually they won't recruit in, but now they can go get these transfers in and fill these holes that in the past they couldn't. But I appreciate everyone for tuning into this episode of A Casual Take. Just something to think about. Let me know your thoughts. Follow my social medias to stay updated on all things related to the show. Until next time, see you.